Hello there, welcome to the video. So I heard people wanted a different intro, a return of something unique. Well, that's what we've got. Different camera angle as well, whether it be for posture, whether it be just for a bit of, I don't know, you could call it kind of exercise by standing upright instead of just flopped down. I thought I'll do a video from this angle. We see how the audio goes as well. I can move about more freely. No distractions when looking outside, right? And hopefully the brightness is okay. If not, it can be adjusted next time round. But as of today, welcome if you're currently here in the live premiere. Yes, we are talking about the Dylan Rounds case. And yes, we are focusing on a particular topic within the case. More so a theory, because there isn't enough evidence to prove, to reinforce the possibilities that Dylan was chopped up. But we're looking at the theory itself. Where did it come from? How many people believe in it? And why? Okay? What about the time? The 28th. Are we saying that the desecration took place on the same day Dylan was murdered? Or are we saying that maybe the following day, that's when he was supposedly chopped up, as people state and others claim and some suggest, right? Be sure to share your thoughts, reactions and comments in the live chat box on the right-hand side of the screen. And also feel free to leave comments down below. That is also helpful when it comes to engagement, when it comes to activity levels, when it comes to spreading awareness on a case. The more activity, the more focus, the better the outcome in some way or another, okay? If you haven't already, feel free to watch my earlier video I did on the Idaho 4 case, as well as yesterday, day before, on the other videos I covered. There have been some focused ones and interesting topics, and we're kind of like locking down on one such as this. Now, arguably, being honest, this could have been done in a standard video format, but last night was reasonable for focus, right? I think one thing to address immediately, okay, is that, like how some people suggest, sometimes the people that are present in the chat who don't even talk anything about the case and they just talk about completely random stuff, they're portrayed, seen as more of a distraction, more of a disruption to the case than the argumentative people who talk about the case. I guess it depends how you look at it. At least from my perspective, my point of view, when it does come to people who talk about anything and everything but the case itself, that's just simply because they may not be as interested in the case, but they're more interested in hanging out with other people, passing a bit of time, having a bit of fun, right? I mean, you look at Wes Stump, okay? Let's just use this as an example to, I guess, set the record straight. So someone like Matt Lingo in recent time, been around for a bit now, which is all good. Matt Lingo hardly talks about the Dylan Rounds case and talks about other stuff, messes about, has some fun, bit dodgy at times, bit degenerative at times. If Dale teams up, it is what it is, okay? But then look at Wes Stump in the past. Kind of did the same thing. Didn't really talk about the Dylan Rounds case, but no one had a problem with Wes Stump. So why do people have a problem with Matt Lingo when they're kind of the same person in terms of what they talk about and less focus on the case? It's kind of the same thing. So if people are okay with Wes in the past, then technically that should apply to Matt Lingo right now. Does that make sense? Obviously, people will disagree, but that's fine. It's just about putting things into perspective, making comparisons, right? And also observing human behavior with time. At least from my perspective, my opinion, right? When it comes to people that talk about random stuff in the chat, yeah, it's distracting. It could be considered that. But if your main focus and aim is to learn something about the video, about me talking, well, the best thing you can do is click the full screen mode. which is kind of like at the bottom of the video on the right hand side, like a little box. You click on it, full screen, my face like that, up close, if you prefer that, and the chat goes away. It shouldn't be on screen. You remove that distraction, now you can focus. So you get the best of both worlds, okay? But as I was referring back to it, you can get people that talk about random stuff. You just kind of like look past that, right? You look past it. At that moment, at that moment in time could be argued as a distraction. But if there are ways to eliminate it by going on full screen mode or by blocking that person, then it's resolved. Perfect, right? What's more of a distraction, what's more disruptive is argumentative, smart-ass individuals, two-faced bastards, hypocrites, those that contradict themselves, those that can't provide a providence when it comes to certain information, right? That's more longer lasting. Whether you see that in the comment section, you see it in a live chat, you see it in a live panel, wherever. Yes, they're talking about the case in some way or another. Yes, they're maintaining a form of focus, which could be considered good, but the information they're passing on, or their thoughts, their ideas, could it be some form of distraction, some form of disruption? Possibly, if it then sends you down the wrong path, or if you interpret it incorrectly because how it was worded, then it just leads to confusion, and confusion can lead to misunderstanding, misunderstanding can lead to friction, friction leads to tension, tension leads to drama and conflict. Food chain. You're worse off in a situation like that than if you came across a spasmoid that was spazzing out and you thought, okay, just put you aside. That's it. So that's at least my opinion on things, okay? Be sure to share your thoughts down below. I do think at times maybe there's a bit of pick and choosing when it comes to certain humans, but it is where it is. As said, you monitor human behavior, right? People will say, I don't have the time, I don't have time to do that. It's like, well, if you implement the 0.5 second rule, you know, it's not exactly time consuming, is it? 0.5 seconds, not at all. That's just how it is. Anyway, this is all in relation to the Dylan Brown's case, as I said, and it's kind of like adding on with what recent, talks have been about by people within the case and community, right? Did an interesting poll last night, a few comments added on. We've taken a look at that. I think Bob Farrell left a comment as well. Salty Pancakes channel has popped up once again. There's been a few attempts recently, and supposedly they got taken down or terminated, but back up again, supposedly. Salty Pancakes is back on YouTube. There we go. It's just repetitive cycle. Is it directly to do with the Dylan Rounds case? Well, the comment was on my post about Dylan Rounds, so it's going to be there whether you like it or not. It's going to show, right? We just simply look for it. We document it, have a look, right? We can also do the same with the comment section as well on the last video I did. Be sure to catch up on it, watch it if you want after watching this, and let me know your thoughts about it. But we just look at the comments, answer any key questions, see if there's any additional interesting information, and then we can go from there, because it is around the theme. I think partially some of the comments are around the theme and topic of the theory of today, right? A video like this, if a documentary crew were to see this, they would probably cut up, no pun intended, some of the wording to make it seem like I believe in this concept, this theory. Do I believe in it? Well, in my opinion, there is just not enough evidence to suggest it, right? Unless there is like a cleaver, a knife, some kind of object found, within the Grainshed property or nearby at the time with blood of Dylan's upon it, then yes, the argument can be made, right? I know equally, no firearm has been found, no ballistic report has been talked about public to suggest that Dylan was shot either, right? Let's just be honest. I mean, I know you can put the argument across about the firearm inside of Brenner's trailer, that time-lapse, timestamp 7:27 AM video one on Dylan's phone, which was retrieved by the police, etc., etc. You know, Brenner cleaning a gun after supposedly taking Dylan out. You could tie one thing to another, right? I do also understand that some comments recently about, you know, questions of the level of blood on Brenner at the time in that video, and the possibilities of, if there's a fair bit, then maybe that translates to what he did to Dylan just beforehand, such as desecration, chopping up, hence why there was that level of blood. But then there's also counterpoints made. I don't know if it's in the comment thread of today, but I'll just add it on. I think it was by Jacqueline Rampley or something, saying after a human has died, passed away, that the blood either dries up or something changes. So then if you was to chop somebody up, that blood isn't going to be as great as if it was like fresh at the time or something. You know, if there's any experts or people that know more, you can, you know, add on, you can make corrections if you wish to, with context, with appropriate wording, and we can go from there, right? I think what I'll also incorporate today is just by looking at the odd photo of inside of the Grangeshed property, just to suggest, you know, what's present, what's inside that could have been used as a form of desecration. Because it's okay saying, oh, Dylan chopped up. Why, where, how, when, who by, and what with what's actually present at the time. A few different questions, right? As said, it's a theory video, just trying to understand it better, and that is all. Those that agree, feel free to elaborate. Those that disagree with the theory, just give your own thoughts and reasons about it, okay? That's all it is. So I think without further ado, we will look at the YouTube comments of the previous video. As I said, there'll be some links down below in the comment section of this video. If you want to check some additional links out, feel free to do so. But right now, to allow other people to join on in to this live premiere, welcome. Sorry, that was just a wardrobe I clunked into then. Whenever I whack something accidentally, I've always got to hit it back. It's just one of those things. But welcome to anyone that has suddenly joined. Welcome to those in the background. Yes, we are talking about Dylan rounds today, and it's now time to catch up with the comments of recent time. Here we are. I'm just going to adjust it to the newest, and for some reason, this time round, there seems to be more options to select, which I don't quite understand, like a super thanks filter, a public subscriber filter. Wait, so anyone that has subscribed to me publicly, you know, public subscribers are shown here. Okay, so it kind of cuts it down if one wishes to. Just one last thing to point out, because it's just reminded me, super thanks. Of course, in recent times, shout out to Cleo, shout out to Badger Life, shout out to Guidance, Watcher Crazy, and of course, most definitely last night, shout out to Maria M. I won't say the last name because she's like, ew, don't say that. But shout out to Maria, it's very good of her. So let's just adjust it to the newest, and we start from the bottom. Don't worry, we haven't got exactly as many comments from like last night as to here, but we're going to read them out anyway, just see what's been said. Tom Evans saying, do we even have a crime scene as for, you know, the area within Lucin? Let's just see what the responses were. Christy, that's what I'm wondering too. And I was just responding back that the family believes so, but they're questioning why it was never officially treated as one. You know, how could the LE not treat it as a crime scene? Tom, where do they think it was? The Grangeshed, possibly? Well, the family appear to strongly believe the shed, because as in the documentary, what we've seen ourselves, they wondered why Brenner was allowed to do that spring cleaning, that if it was sealed off at the time, those items would have remained in place, and maybe it could have led to additional evidence, maybe a new lead, right? Is there like 100% certainty to say Grangeshed property, that's where the crime scene is? Because if we're saying that there's no blood within the area, that most of Dylan's blood appeared on like Brenner's clothing and arms compared to the surrounding area, then how can you say the surrounding area is a crime scene? Where does it exactly indicate whatever happened? And, you know, you could argue and say, well, it's hard to tell, isn't it? But what I would say is that hole inside of the grain shed property, whether it be an item retrieved from there or more so like soil samples, bodily fluids, as it has been talked about in the past, bodily fluids seeping into the dirt, the ground, and the samples being taken away in that sense. But surely something early on would have indicated, such as the police or the family, to go to that spot where that hole was, well, where that future hole was going to appear. Surely something on the surface level directed them to that spot and made them think, right, we'll dig here. You get what I'm saying? At the time, early on, surely there was an inclination. There was some kind of hint, a prompt to say, right, we're going to dig a hole there. Whether it be something on top of the surface, a stain, a pattern, some kind of blood, who knows? Do people understand what I'm getting at there? Because out of the area, the grain shed property inside, you could have dug in the corner, you could have dug at the entranceway, but no, they did it more so towards at the back in the centre. So it's kind of interesting that. As for that phone ping of Dylan, 7:03 a.m, near to the grain shed property, you could imply as Dylan attempting to park the grain truck inside of the grain shed at that time. And then whatever happened, happened. That's what I'd say, right? I personally think that the grain shed property, maybe more so inside and possibly on the outside as well, near to the entrance, was a crime scene. It wasn't officially treated as one, but it should have been. And other people out there that could argue and say, yeah, but we don't truly know. There's not enough evidence to say it was an actual crime scene. Maybe it didn't happen there. Maybe it happened elsewhere. What I would say is, well, even if you think that way, surely you can agree that if it was at least taped off out of bounds, it would have prevented Brenner doing his spring cleaning, which would have meant whatever was in there would have remained there up to the point family, police, whoever collected those items, and it could have led to some kind of success. You get what I'm saying? And just as a heads up, you know, to new viewers and other people out there, when we refer to James Brenner, also known as Jim Brenner, the one supposedly responsible for murdering Dylan Rounds and the one that has been charged with the desecration and murder of Dylan, June the 2nd, spring cleaning 2022. It's called spring cleaning because it's a key quote from Brenner's own mouth at the time when a sheriff approached him saying, "What are you doing?" And he said, "Oh, I'm just spring cleaning, you know, tidying up trash." Now, at the time, Candice Cooley said, because, you know, afterwards, upon searching grain shed and stuff, like clearly there was still trash everywhere, but a spring cleaning was a load of BS, but I guess it was a cover-up excuse because he was doing other things at the place, such as disposing of evidence, let's just say. But it's just referred to as spring cleaning because that's how the family referred to it as. It's a memorable line, and you got to use memorable language. Memorable keywords enables efficiency and to an extent, clarity. Upon those that enter and don't know the full story, there's no harm in briefly explaining it, just like how I did just then. Okay? Anyway, anything else to highlight here? Not really. I mean, does anyone, and we probably could do it as a poll right now, besides the grain shed property, are there any other locations which could be considered, or at the time considered, a crime scene? Dylan's farm, Dylan's trailer, or is it only the grain shed property? Let me know down below. We got Patsy saying, how can it be pack of blood when Brenner's clothes had Dylan's blood on it? Are they trying to make a movie and drag it out? Right. June, do we even know how much blood was on Brenner or Where? His shirt, his face? I don't trust LE at all. Okay, you answered that already. It's a pack of blood. It was Dylan's blood. Yeah. Is my comment there? Oh, my comment's not showing up there. Maybe it was on a different one. But just to add on with what June is saying here, if you don't trust what the LE says, if you don't trust what Candice Cooley says, then who do you trust? Do people rush to Justin Rounds and only look up and listen to him? I wonder. At the end of the day, when it comes to this blood situation with Brenna, the 7:27 a.m. timestamp time-lapse video retrieved from Dylan's phone, which depicted Brenna, the 28th of May 2022, at a 7:27 a.m. timestamp of him being in his own trailer with Dylan's phone. How was the phone set up? Flat down, facing up, propped up at an angle? Who knows? But it was facing Brenna, and Brenna was seen cleaning a gun, had blood on his hands, blood on his sleeves, blood on his shirt, which was later retrieved by police. The blood was confirmed to be of Dylan Rounds, and whilst other people out there deny it and discredit it, it was officially mentioned in the court documents, which I've clearly said several times now, okay? So that's how that's gone about. Now, people could say, oh, but we don't trust the police saying that. Oh, we don't trust Candice Cooley saying that. Well, if you believe Justin Rounds said the same thing, because Justin Rounds said he did watch it. It was 27 seconds long, supposedly. Maybe it could have been longer, but what was presented to the family at the time was a 27-second clip. And there was all kinds of emotions and feelings when watching it, as described by Justin Rounds and Candice Cooley after March the 3rd, 2023, in an East Idaho News Channel interview. It was like a big catalyst around that point when these things were being talked about. And Candice Cooley did say that the police knew about the time-lapse video in November, and I think it might have been the 19th of November. It was around November time of 2022, and the family only heard about it sometime in 2023, right, around March. So there's been a big gap in between, but it clearly highlights and shows that the family don't know everything, and that, you know, things won't be told to them, which is to be expected. I'm sure people in the chat right now are well aware of it, but it's just to use as an example to put things into practice, right? So we've got that there. Juan, Reefer Madness, whatever that means. June, sorry for another post, but how do we know Dylan bled? Brenna could have hit him in the head, knocked him out, not all that much blood, and then buried him whilst unconscious. I said, official court documents, yeah, which could be interpreted as a fair amount, though the lack of blood elsewhere, I can understand your point. Obviously, this talks about that, right? How Dylan was taken out, why there was no blood left behind, or no supposed traces of it, could imply a certain style and method of taking Dylan out by Brenna, let's say. Sometimes you could shoot someone, a lot of blood comes out, other times not. I guess it does come down to where the person is shot. Or they're shot in a near main artery, well, it's going to squirt, isn't it? And if you're shot elsewhere, a little wounding, who knows? And also what caliber, what type of firearm is being used. If you use a shotgun up close, going to be a messy situation. The spread on it as well. The ballistics will differ from other firearms, of course. Was there a handgun used? Small rifle, a small hunting rifle. An AR? Very unlikely. I'd say more so a firearm, a pistol, a handgun was used. Dylan's own firearm, was that one used? Who knows? Or the supposed missing firearm of Brenna's, which could have been used. I mean, I don't know if it's too soon to do another poll. Poll could be, what item or what method do you think was used when taking Dylan Rounds out? Besides the whole desecration and chopping up, how do you think Dylan was initially murdered by the likes of Brenna? Let me know down below. We got Mike. Shout out to Mike for watching the videos and liking the video. Appreciate that. We got a new viewer as well, from the looks of it, Jodie Jackson. Shout out to them. Got Glenn, of course. Jacqueline saying, if wild animals have another entry to the mine shaft and find a body, they will drag said body away to their lair or camp. That's why some look down the passages in mine shafts. Same would apply to cave. I hope I've explained this okay. Yeah, you have explained that okay. I did talk about that as well in my video, briefly, touching upon it, the possibilities. Some mine shafts, yeah, are accessible elsewhere. Just depends, right? But then there will be other mine shafts which may only be accessible one way, and that's down into the depths. So maybe animals wouldn't be getting in there to that extent. Yeah, it's just like, you know, these little thoughts here and there when talking about stuff like this, no harm. But yeah, it was worded well here. Jacqueline also says, I learned from a previous case I followed that once someone is dead, the heart stops, blood no longer pumps around the body. Yeah. If Brenner did cut Dylan up, it wouldn't necessarily have had blood flowing out of his body. It depends. I guess, well, you think of those surgical procedures, right? Surgical procedures can cut off the blood flow or transmit it in a different direction, down a different way, so that when you do cut open, there's no blood at all. Obviously, in a case like this, Brenner is no doctor at all. I mean, the only other possibility, whether it be cutting up or some other kind of killing, that there is something on the ground, some kind of sheeting, let's just say, that prevented blood from getting on the ground or staining the area. Oh yeah, some random emojis there. They were just test ones because I was seeing if the quality showed up. But yeah, just to highlight one other thing, you know, people watching right now, just want to make a special announcement. As of today, there is a new exclusive, premium quality, custom exclusive, members only emoji, which can be used and deployed at your disposal if you're a member on the channel. This was done in acknowledgement of ZX0 for their presence, the support to the channel over the course of time. As for Maria out there too, you know, if Maria has any ideas or suggestions regarding a custom emoji, whether it be something very specific or just simply a certain theme, light, dark, vampire, teeth, I don't know, whatever it is, whatever, I'll try and create a custom emoji, okay? So feel free to use it if you want to. It should be usable right now, and it looks like we've reached the end of the comments here. Now, let's move on to my community tab, because there's some additional comments there. Well, here we are on one of the posts. Some things here mentioned by Glenn. As I said before, vertical mine shaft and a stick of dynamite and you'll not find anything. Fair enough, I get that point. Christy saying, not everybody is interested in finding Dylan. Some just do it for their ego or other purposes and search impossible places without using their brains. That was just to do with the mine shaft situation. I get that. And at the bottom, unapologetically authentic. Perhaps they're just clearing everything. And here we go, mountain. So I'm reading this comment out because it's in relation to the theme of today, desecration, chopping up. And they believe, saying he might have got chopped up and then thrown in different dumpsters and ended up at different landfills. A guy in a few towns away did this to his wife and ended up at CMS where they incinerate garbage, so they never found the body. Right. Badger. Oh, for tire's sake, Jim, don't chop and sheesh. Okay. The thing is, the way this person has worded it, they're not saying it as a fact. They're not saying it as it did happen. They're just giving their own thoughts. Look, the initial comment, the starting point of what they say, he might have got chopped up. This person isn't saying that he did get chopped up. They're saying he might have. Possibility, could have. Not 100% certain, but just a suggestion. See? It is somewhat easy to follow that, right? And this person's basing it off a past story. If it's happened back then with a different case, it could happen here as well. I guess due to the nature of not being able to locate Dylan Rounds yet, it could lead to the growth in certain theories strengthening, such as being chopped up. You know, it's just see as time tells, right? Anyway, let's move on to the next post. So this post was 17 hours ago, and it was actually a poll. A total of 47 people interacted with this post and voted. Now, the actual poll itself was regarding Dylan Rounds. Do you agree that silence in the case enables people to fill the atmosphere with nonsense and BS? 74% of people strongly agreed and believe that during times of silence, there will be BS spread and confusion, and it's unnecessary. 13% somewhat agreed to it. 2% disagreed, another 2% strongly disagreed, and 9% neither/neutral. As said, all this voting is anonymous. I mean, you could suggest that the people that strongly disagreed and somewhat disagreed may come from certain communities out there in which those communities do spread BS. You know, if you used to infer from it yourself as possibilities. But let's just see what the comments are if people did elaborate. So I couldn't vote myself because I created the poll, but I'd say I strongly agree that there is BS and nonsense at times of silence. It's that enabling opportunity, right, for people to have a voice and get the voice out there without being interrupted by anything else. We got Lambro saying here, I strongly agree, but also feel it is necessary to keep the integrity of the crime. LE should keep things close to their chest, especially the way things get taken way out of proportion. So what Lambro has demonstrated here is that they do agree that silence can equal disruption, but it shouldn't be led to the LE being forced to counter that with releasing important information or findings. That the LE has a job to do and a certain procedure, and it needs to follow through that way, even if it does mean silence. It's for the best. I get that. At times, it can kind of backfire. You know, if things aren't being released, other people start guessing, some may second guess, and maybe like with the Idaho 4 case, stuff like that within the community. But eventually things can be released, maybe through the court documents or official news articles, press conferences, press releases, but obviously in the Dylan Rounds case, we've not had them at the moment properly. But in other cases, you would. The thing is, with the Dylan Rounds case, there's always been levels of silence, but it's always been, you know, caught up with by an interview by Candice Cooley, Justin Rounds, with Nate Eaton, Heavy D, whoever. Doug at the time, when things weren't as problematic. There was something there. There was like a little checkpoint. You thought things went too silent, and then there you go. There was an interview, things were cleared up, some questions were answered. It may have opened up new holes, but it filled in previous ones to an extent. Whereas this time round, we've had no interviews, nothing at all. It's the most silent it's ever been. And it just depends how you interpret it yourself. Cleo here also strongly agrees with the BS coming on in. Bob Farrell also strongly agrees that during times of silence, that people out there in the Dylan Rounds community will spread BS and spread misinformation and cause disruption. Even Bob Farrell himself believes that does happen and is happening. Interesting. Well, let's just see what else he's got to say here. Big time, yes. Just look at the stories Salty Pancakes has told about who killed Dylan. He blamed Dale and his wife, Weezer. Dale? I thought Dale was with Laura. What's going on here? Then he blamed Ed Harshberger, or Ed Harshbarger, or Ed Harshbagger. Depends how you say the name, with it. Deep dive BS, if you ask me. Not sure if you ever watch my stream or come there, but I have gotten some much information from people from Montello and some very close folks to the Dylan Rounds family. Not sure why you don't visit other creator streams. Lots of us come to yours and give you stickers, etc. You should do the same. Well, the wording of that by Bob at the end is a little disappointing, okay? There's a difference between someone that goes on YouTube and watches videos. And then there's a difference between someone that goes on YouTube, uploads videos to their channels every now and then someone who goes onto YouTube as a content creator, constantly researching, constantly uploading videos, constantly meeting deadlines, being a content creator for a video game out there as well, creating customizable things in the background, such as the emojis, the background post, the photos, the thumbnails. There's a lot that goes on. Balancing it out with forms of exercise as well, as of in recent time, which I've started doing again. Last time I kind of started was it was in December of 2022. I did it short term, and then because of background stuff going on, and as said, the illnesses, not with me, but elsewhere, it was a distraction, it was disruptive, it ruined my flow, it ruined my mood. So I just focused on only one thing and one thing only, and that was creating videos on YouTube, covering the case, locking down, focused so much that there wasn't time to look at other videos live at the time. And due to the time zone difference as well, that being an obvious factor as well. As for Bob's videos, I have briefly looked at them here and there, of course, but not full on. And that's just basically it, you know. I've got my own videos to cover. I've got my own focus, got my own, task to do and set out. And of course, as of recent time, I've been more focused on a different missing person case too. So it's been pretty busy. As for the give and take and give, it's a bit one of those messy situations, right? I mean, how do you word it without it being interpreted incorrectly? You can support someone, but when you support someone, you're doing it because you appreciate them. You're not doing it in expectation of by giving to them that they give back to you. That's having a bit of an expectation, which is sometimes unrealistic and not so natural, right? Does that make sense? It's like saying to a professional footballer, full-time professional footballer, and then a Sunday league player. Sunday league player may go to one of those professional footballers' matches and watches them. And what does that Sunday league casual footballer expect for someone like Cristiano Ronaldo to come on down and then watch that person on a Sunday? Yeah, kind of unrealistic in a sense. But besides Bob Farrell here, what was the response? It doesn't seem to be shown, but don't worry. When comments don't show, click newest first. And who responded back to Bob Farrell? Salty Pancakes, saying to Bob, get a life. So a quick look here. Salty Pancakes, looks like it's the proper channel. Salty Pancakes himself, back again. He's been back a few times now, but supposedly his channel keeps disappearing or whatever. Called Resurrection. No videos at this moment in time. No playlist. Joined 4th of April 2023. It's interesting how you get these people out there with several different accounts and stuff. And here I am just with one. And controlling one account and maintaining one account is, you know, enough itself, right? On top of everything. I just wanted to point that out to you. Now, let's return back to the discussion of desecration. So yeah, at least from my perspective, I don't believe that Dylan Rounds was chopped up. I don't believe that Brenner did it. I don't believe that it happened in the first place. If at some point down the line there is material, there is footage, there is a tool found with DNA upon it, with blood upon it, or that has already been found way back in the past and eventually is told publicly, then yeah, be more likely to believe in it. But at this moment in time, it's just a theory, okay? And I have extensive experience when it comes to theories, whether it be understanding them, believing in them, countering, disagreeing with them, etc., because I have covered other cases besides Dylan Rounds. Besides the fact there are other channels out there, whingy, whiners, argumentative people that don't have a basis or foundations because it's the first time of them covering a case like this, you know, at least from my experience, especially when dealing with multiple high-end, deep-end theories and possibilities, it's a juggling act at times, right? But even the best and the most interesting theories doesn't always equal that's reality, okay? It's still a theory, it's still an idea. At some point or another, if you can add it on with material, a finding, some kind of evidence, then that's obviously welcomed. But I just don't think that's happened at this moment in time. I mean, yes, you can say, well, Lance Kelly has been finding bones left, right, and centre, but they have been animal ones. So who they belong to, exactly what type of species, who knows, but animal bones doesn't really link. If, for whatever reason, you found one human small bone here, and then one miles over that way, and then another one way over that way, then yeah, maybe you could say, maybe this supports the idea, the claim that Dylan was chopped up, and this is bits of him chopped up. But you know what the other problem is? And no one has really mentioned it. If you've got skeletal remains, let's say Dylan was never chopped up, right? Let's just say that Dylan was buried in the ground. Let's just say that. And for some reason, maybe animals, if they were able to, dug it up or were able to scavenge certain bones in some way, as people have suggested in the past, and those bones were taken further afar. Repeat that over and over. And then if you went out there looking and you just happened to find the odd loose bone, it belonged to Dylan somehow because you found it, you reported it in, test results said, oh, this belongs to that person, Dylan Rounds himself, and then you found another one elsewhere and then another one elsewhere, then you could be under the assumption that, oh, Dylan was chopped up and Dylan's remains were scattered all over the place. But it doesn't always mean to say that. Animals could have been responsible for scattering the bones. Now you can see how you can get confused between the two, possibly, right? Now, obviously not everyone can answer all at once, but you can leave your comments down below more so, and even in the live chat, but at what point, you yourself watching and you in the background lurking in the darkness, at what point did you latch on to the theory that Dylan was chopped up, the possibilities of that happening? When did you first hear about that theory? When did you start believing in it? Were you influenced by anyone in the first place by that being mentioned, or did you think of it yourself? And if so, when? Okay. And ever since, have you stuck with that idea, or have you switched and changed back and forth? And let's say in recent time, you're re-believing in it, let's say, okay? Now, if that's the case, if you do believe that it happened, who do you think was responsible for it? Besides the killing, who do you think was the one that chopped up Dylan, supposedly? You think it was Brenner? You think it was Don? Chase? Aviles? Those names that keep popping on up here and there in the background? Or somebody else? Let me know your thoughts down below. Then the next question would be, where do you think it took place, if it did happen? Out in the open? At Dylan's place? Inside of the grain shed itself, because it's enclosed? Easier to manage, control? If that was the case, then how was it so clean afterwards? Are you able to give your thoughts there? You know, if desecration truly took place, why was there no blood present? You know, was sheeting put down at the time when cutting the person up? If not, then how come the ground was somewhat clean? You know what I'm saying? Was there any methods used? My next question to you would be, as well, during the process of desecration, cutting someone up, What items, what tools, what equipment do you think was used? Besides the backhoe bucket, well, one of them out there which has not been seen since or talked about since, or certain people out there, higher ups, chains of commands can't reveal who that backhoe belongs to. The second one, even though Ellenberg did say that Kurt Wadsworth owned 2 backhoes, but that's kind of gone silent ever since. So it's kind of, what's going on there? A little bit dodgy. Kurt's backhoe, at least the one what we've seen and heard of, and it's been documented and photos have been taken and we have seen it on the maps, that as the one near to the Grainshed property, which was originally once at Dillon's farm and then got moved to the Grainshed property down the line, right? But the other one out there, where is it at? Okay, where is that other backhoe at? Who owns that backhoe? Has it been brought into the police, or is it just left out in the open? And what about the blood on the bucket? I heard some people in the past say that it washed away, that, you know, it's lost. Well, that's great, isn't it? Clearly not. Are people associating that the backhoe was used to cut Dillon rounds up? How would that even be possible? I guess maybe the bucket, the head of it, with the little spikes on it, pointing it downwards and slamming it down to kind of like chop up with the weight and force, possibly. Hence why there was blood on it. Was it used to scoop up body parts? No. It just seems a bit long-winded in a way. I would say, what was the method and style when murdering Dillon? Was it quick? Was it fast? Effective? Was it lazy? Was it sloppy? Which one? And then if you find out that method, then you could apply it to the disposing, the desecration part. If it's going to be a lazy kill, then are you going to go to the lengths of chopping somebody up? No, probably not. If for whatever reason you did, then maybe you might use equipment, the lazy way to do the chopping. I just don't see Brenner or Don Hatley as a sort to get a knife out and then start chopping away like they're at the kitchen sink. You know what I'm saying? You got to ask yourself what items were truly used and what was present at the time in order to potentially participate in that act of desecration. So just let me know your thoughts down below, right? If you can maintain focus, or if you can't maintain focus right now, but you want to leave comments later on a different day, leave the comments down below. All I want to do is just present to you a photo of inside of the Grainshed property, more so at the back, the workbench, the table, just to see what items are present there and could anything on that table have been used in the desecration. Let's head on over now. Here we are with one of the shots. We've got 2 photos to get through. I just want to know your thoughts, and you can leave timestamps down below and point it out if it comes to your eyesight. Is there any objects, any tools present here? Obviously this photo was taken after, months on, but as like an example, an opportunity. Is there any items or tools used here, in sight, which could have been used, or something similar that could have been used in the desecration of Dillon? If people out there strongly believe that Dillon was chopped up, are there any items present here which would tie in line with that? I'll even zoom on in, if that helps. See some wiring on the ground, some maybe empty boxes, the odd beer case as well. Bits of rubble on the ground, dust and dirt. Bookshelf. Not much there. It looks like you got like a spray bottle on the middle shelf in blue. Like a spray bottle. A few more boxes. There is like a white bucket or a white tub there. Is that of paint? Or some kind of chemicals? I'm not quite sure. Anything else? Some maybe breeze blocks, bits of concrete. That looks like maybe a tank. Is that a propane tank or something? Tubing. You got like mesh, caging, fencing there, which go with the chicken coop on the right hand side. 2 buckets there. Some packets of something there, whatever that is. Don't know if that's dodgy or not. Then you got some bits of rock, bits of wood, just below it, which is out of sight, is the hole in the ground, for reference. Is there anything that stands out here? Anything odd, dodgy, strange? A key item could be used. You know, do you see any blades, any saws, any hack saws, any chainsaws? You know, stuff like that. Table over there with bits of scrap on it, got a bit of metal, a tub, some kind of bucket, cardboard box. Not exactly anything special, right, or that bad. You do have a workbench over there, as you can see. We'll get closer to it in a second. Take in mind, we have looked at this before. I'm just referring back to it because of the theme of this video, right? You look on the ground down there, what, more wires, bits of tubing, some cans as well, even scattered about down here. Maybe the odd bit of piping as well. Not much, right? Not too much. If you do see anything though, if you pick anything out, leave a comment down below and I'll chat back. On here, what, you got like a vice grip. You put something into it to hold it upright maybe, if you're going to cut through it, or drill, maybe. Is that going to be used in the desecration? Probably not. Are they buckles? Is that a belt buckle? Is that a belt buckle? Looks like it. Looks like maybe 3 different belt buckles. Has that got anything to do with Dylan Round's belt? I don't know. I only just noticed it now. And then what do we have here? Is that like a little small furnace or something else? I said, I'm not going to be an expert on this, of course. More tubing back there. Spray can, spray paint. And then, really, one thing that stands out here appears to be the, you call it the head, the base of a chainsaw. But the supposed chain, the blade, whatever you call it, appears to be missing. Now, at least to my mind, it looks like a chainsaw, though some people have said it's a vacuum cleaner. It's deceiving, in my opinion. How could you think it's a vacuum cleaner? The only thing I would pick up on is maybe because that wheel looks like a wheel down there, which would drag along. But just being honest, when you're in the middle of a desert where it's very dry and dusty, why do you need a vacuum cleaner? You know what I'm saying? It just seems a bit pointless. I mean, if you've got a table or an item that needs brushing down, use a brush. It seems more effective, in my opinion. But yeah, it's either a vacuum cleaner or a chainsaw. It does look like a chainsaw because of the back bit, like the handle, and then the handle on top, which you would hold on to. One hand goes behind, if one goes on top. So I guess it depends how you interpret it, right? If it truly was a chainsaw, this, because it's never really been talked about by the family or anything, if it was a chainsaw, could something like this have been used in the desecration? You know, just give me your thoughts. The only thing I noticed, the only other thing was this there. What is that? I could be wrong. Is it a handle of a saw blade? Maybe not. A hacksaw, possibly. Or it could be something else. And then there's like a green object here. What's that? I said, I'm just working with the material I've got. I'm trying to work and see it from the perspective of people that believe Dylan was chopped up. And just visualize what's present, you know, on the property, in the area, roughly speaking. Is there any tools that could truly be used? Besides the whole farming aspect and all of that, any farming equipment, any farming tools involved? Well, let me know your thoughts. Let me know if you noticed anything within these photos. So for me, at least based on this like area in the case, this theory, this will probably be my last video on that topic until maybe new evidence or material comes on out to support that theory. There are other theories that still exist out there and can be looked at individually at a different point in time. I still need to look at key fob situation. I just want to get my points across there, because there is a counter like question to put out there, which might make people think. But I think for something like that, which is a bit more important, it might be just a focused standard video format. So just be on the lookout for that and expect the format to be different to like what we've got here. As I said, if you want to see like the Idaho 4 case coverage, a little news update video earlier on, catch up with that. If you have just joined late, welcome. Be sure to rewind back to catch up on everything. If any of you that have questions or grievances, list them down below in the comment section, and I'm sure they can be answered at a later point. Hopefully you understood the video and you found it somewhat interesting. For those that have watched for most part of it, appreciate that. And yeah, thanks for watching. I will see you next time, whatever it might be about or whatever case. And yeah, goodbye and good night.